What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by Matt Money Smith. And this is a special episode because starting next week, Money, across the next 7 months, we'll have a training camp practice, a joint practice, a preseason game, a regular season game, a playoff game, and hopefully a Super Bowl to talk about from July to February.
Yeah, it's here. It's weird. I think people that I don't want to get too deep into this. I can't imagine people are too interested in it. But like football is interesting because the offseason really isn't that long between draft and free agency and rookie camp and OTAs. But there's this little window that we're in right now where everyone in the NFL goes on vacation, has like this 3-week window to themselves, and then it's over. And when it's over, it is over. And you are slammed from, I'm going to be part of that NFL network. We're back September or July 30th, every single training camp going for like 9 hours on the network. And that's kind of like the official kickoff.
Are you in studio for that? Or are you out?
No, I'll be at Chargers camp. Yeah, Chargers DJ camp. And I'll be at Chargers camp for that one. And it's just funny because that's essentially I don't know if they'd be upset with me saying this, but you basically get these emails of like, imagine your Disney pass, and depending on the level of Disney pass you have all the blackout dates of when you can't go, like vacation at NFL Network from July 30th until like February 15th. It's just blacked out. It's like you're not going anywhere for these 8 months. So enjoy it for this little 3-week window. And now we're just about to exit that, but I'm excited. I got my vacations in, and as did you. You just got back from Hawaii. So I'm stoked that we got this going next week, and I'll see you out there at Jack Hammett.
Yeah, we know what we signed up for, right? I mean, we know.
Love it.
Once July hits,
I love it,
man. I always feel like it is vacation when football starts.
Yep.
Hey, last week's episode, people loved your Andrew Luck commentary, man. I hope Zach got some downloads off of that, but I had to read a couple comments to you because I was laughing because they're fantastic. Jack said, I damn near wanted to stand up in my living room and clap for Matt when he was saying all that stuff about Andrew Luck. That was motivational AF to me.
Right on.
Yeah, Jack.
I mean, look, I get it. I know why people are excited, right? Because Andrew Luck was incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. So, if someone's making a parallel of Herbert to Luck, you're going to get darn excited.
Justin Bean, thank you, Matt, for bringing depth to the O-line discussion. What happened to Andrew Luck is so tragic and terrible. Imagine watching that to happen to Justin. That would be horrible. Well, we made the case for why it's not happening to Justin, which is, I think, is a good thing, right?
No doubt. That was the foundation of the parallel that got me thinking about it when I listened to Zach Kiefer's pod there.
All right. So we mentioned the training camp next week, 10 practices open to the public. The first one next Wednesday. There's also 2 against the Cowboys, joint practices. Those 2 practices exclusive to season seat members. Money, what's the first thing you're going to have eyes on Wednesday, seeing those guys out there?
Well, I'm going to go 48 hours before that. First thing I'm going to have my eyes on is when this Derwin James extension gets done. To me, that is, and I don't know if you were planning on going there, but I guess I might have jumped you for content here. But to me, that's the most important thing. Today, the day we're recording this, Kyler Murray just agreed to his extension. We know that Orlando Brown, Jesse Bates, they both didn't. So they're playing on the franchise tags. News today that the Chiefs are not happy with Orlando Brown's camp, that they thought, they made some fair offers and that got turned away. And we know, from just kind of, what is it now? Almost, it's been 10 years. This is the 10th year of Tom Telesco that, look, you got to get a deal done before training camp. Otherwise it's going to wait till the end of the year. And you certainly do not want to be put in that position with Derwin. So, and it's just been great to watch the way that Tom and his staff has worked, and Ed and everybody, and locking up Keenan and Mike and Joey and all these players that they've drafted and developed and then rewarded with these, lucrative extensions. And I would be absolutely floored if they didn't get something done with Derwin. But until it's done, I can't lie. I'm like, God, I'd love to see that headline of Derwin James, sorry, Tom and Ed agrees to be the highest paid safety in football. I'm just waiting for that headline to show up.
Well, we don't need to talk to anybody else to know what Derwin means to the organization and how they feel about Derwin and how he makes everything go, all 3 phases. It's not just defense. So it would be good to see Derwin locked up, ready to go for the 2022 season and beyond. There's a lot of good safeties in the league. I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick kind of just set the standard, right? So,
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're looking at this point.
Yeah. And I think the two of them were looking at each other, and by the two of them, I mean, they're agents, and seeing who was going to blink first. And because knowing that the second you signed it, the other guy was going to ask for $1 more or $1 million more or whatever it might be, because they're both that good. And that goes for, all the elite safeties in the league. And it's no different with quarterbacks and in any position. One guy signs the deal, the next guy wants a little bit more. And that's how agents prove their worth to their clients and get more clients. So, I don't think Tom would be upset with me saying that, because he knows that's just the way the business works when you're an elite player. And look, I think for Derwin and the Chargers, in Los Angeles, it goes beyond just how incredibly great of a football player he is, B, what an incredible leader that he is. But I mean, Derwin's a star. Derwin is a star off the field. Like, he is a legit superstar. And there are not many of those on the defensive side of the ball in the league. Guys with just incredible personalities, very marketable. You're going to see a ton. I mean, look, we saw a bunch of 33s. Now we're going to see a bunch of 3 jerseys all over the place, this coming year. So I think Dean Leonard's going
to get a little shine, because I think he's wearing 33.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
All these 33s in the crowd for me.
Right. Derwin looks like he shrunk. What happened? what happened to him?
So I didn't want to go here because I didn't want to take. I didn't want to take the bait, but we had Chris Canty on last year, and I like Chris Canty a lot. He's a good dude. He had his top 5 overrated players entering the 2022 season, and he just happened to lead it off with 2 Chargers.
Right,
and Derwin was one of them, and then Khalil Mack was 2. And then, the one theme I saw throughout it was, like, I think it was Saquon Barkley, Dak Prescott, and Christian McCaffrey, if I'm not mistaken. All those guys have had, like, major injuries,
right,
over the last 2 years. So I want to have Chris on at some point, maybe like week 6, week 8. We can kind of see where these guys are at.
Yeah, we've had him on before.
Yeah. So I look at Derwin, and he references the fact that, he played through a torn labrum, hasn't been the same since his rookie year. Wasn't that game week 2 of the NFL season last year where he hurt his labrum?
Against the Cowboys.
Or
I think, right?
Week 3, the Chiefs.
Week 3 against the Chiefs.
It was the Chiefs. So, I mean, the fact that he played throughout the entire year, made the Pro Bowl, was a first-team All-Pro in 2018, and he's under the age of 25. I mean, I don't know how you could say somebody is overrated at that age, playing at that level, with bad injury luck. Like, if this is just strictly on injury luck, and you can make the argument he'd play for 2 years, fine. But that kind of struck me, and that almost, if you want to go behind the curtain in a production meeting, it's almost like, all right, how can we needle Chargers fans today on social media? Because they're active, they're out there.
Yeah,
is this the way to do it? I don't know. I mean, what did you think about that?
I think you started with the proper sentence, which is, I didn't want to take the bait. And to me, it's bait. It's clickbait. You can't put a bunch of players on there that everybody would agree are overrated. He kind of hit it all, right? And look, this is just reality. One, he hit top 5 pick. Everybody, went crazy when they selected a running back in Saquon Barkley when you had quarterbacks on the board, regardless of how those quarterbacks turned out. Just saying, like, you took Saquon Barkley in the top 5, and everyone was like, don't take the running back. And it's proven to be an issue because Saquon can't stay healthy. 2, you throw the white running back in there that everybody loves, so, okay, there you go. Check that box. 3, you put Khalil Mack. 3, let's put a cowboy in there. And I mean, has there ever been a more debated player in the league than Dak Prescott? And, and part of that is Jerry's and his son's doing, when it comes to signing him and elongating that process, and probably ended up paying $10 million more per season because of the way they approached it, not wanting to commit to it. And then a couple Chargers, which I'll be honest, I just didn't quite understand what he was going for there. Like, to me, overrated is, I don't believe in this person's skill set. They're listed as elite players, and they're not. And it's like, talk to offensive tackles and tell me if Khalil Mack's overrated. if they go into a game and say, oh man, I'm happy I'm going to be playing Khalil Mack today. Yeah, this guy's so overrated. Everyone thinks he's so good. This is going to be a walk in the park. No, that's not what they say. They're crapping their pants because they know that Khalil's one of the best edge rushers in the league. And same thing with Derwin. And, tip of the cap to one of my favorite people in the business, Brian Baldinger, who today, actually, the day we're doing this, posted it on his Instagram, his Baldy breakdown of Derwin. Just talking about, and you know how Baldy does it. There's people out there that are saying things about Derwin. I just don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about. Let me get this going here. And I don't know what they're talking about. So if you want to check that out at Baldy NFL on Instagram, he's got about a 2.5-minute sizzle reel from last year of him covering Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill in the same game, of him going step for
17 tackles and a half.
Exactly. Has a pick against Darren Waller because he jumps a route that Waller, one of the most uncoverable tight ends in the league. He's doing that. He's got him blowing up Joe Burrow and just dusting Samaje Perine in pass pro for a sack. And then he's got him, I can't remember. Oh, and then he's got him shooting a gap on a handoff from Mac Jones in the Patriots game. I mean, it's like a cartoon. That one play is like watching a cartoon where Derwin diagnoses attacks and you just can't figure out how someone's body got to that spot that quickly. So I think it's just bait, that's all it was.
It's bait, but you know what? I took it because I got one more week till training camp.
Exactly.
So I felt like I had a right to take it. And I will say this, if Chargers fans don't know, Khalil Mack liked it on Instagram. So Khalil Mack saw it. And the one thing that strikes me about Khalil is the second you talk to him, he doesn't want to talk about anything. He just says, I just want to show you. I just want to show you. He just wants 100%. To get to September 11th and show everybody who he is, because I do think people forgot, just because we have this recency bias. We see everything that happened in 2021. Khalil got hurt 7-8 games into the season, and we didn't hear from him again. And he played on a team that wasn't very good. So, we haven't said Khalil Mack's name a lot over the last 2 years because of all those factors. We'll see what happens September 11th. And I think he's the type of guy who's like, he's not going to tell you anything. He's going to show you how it's done. And I think the thing with Derwin is a guy like Khalil, and Staley said this so many times, JC Jackson, Khalil, they finally have players around him to let Derwin make more of those splash plays, right?
That's the key. I think that's the key, is with last year's defense. Derwin was the break in case of emergency player, and every single game they had to break that glass and ask him to do something different. Derwin, we got to have you play up high for 50-60% of the snaps, and now he's not as involved at the line of scrimmage as he should be. Derwin, Joey's banged up. We need you to give us some pass rush presence off the edge, and now the tight end's kind of running free through the middle of the field. Derwin, we need you to kind of work the outside as a corner, because we're down to 2 practice squad corners that are starting right now. Like he was asked to do, and coach did a great job, I think, of sharing that sentiment with the media of, you have no idea what we're asking this guy to do. And, after they traded for Khalil, and after they signed JC, and after they bolstered the interior of that line, now is the first thing out of Staley's mouth is, just wait. You wait to see what we're going to be able to do with Derwin now, and how he is different than almost every other player in the league, because he can rush. Yeah, he is a load to deal with as a rush, as a rusher, as a blitzer. He can go step for step with any tight end in the league. He can cover receivers like Tyreek Hill, and he can just cause havoc. He's so intelligent at diagnosing and seeing what a play, it's kind of the chess matches that we used to hear. Like, to me, that's the name that you would always hear, like Phillip Rivers or Peyton Manning. They were the ones that always talk about, I love dadgummit, I love playing against Derwin James, because I know he knows what I'm thinking, and I know what he's thinking. And so I'm trying to think if he's thinking what I'm thinking, and I'm going to outthink him. That's the kind of stuff
that was Ed Reed. That was Ed Reed. Exactly.
It was Ed Reed, and that's going to be fun this year. Like, I'm just looking at game 1. You talked about how Khalil wants to show you. I mean, I'm looking at that Raiders offensive line, and we know that Darren Waller don't like blocking. So, you're going to get Foster Moreau out there for some help. And we know what Joey Bosa regularly does to Colton Miller. For whatever reason, it's just been a good matchup, even though Colton's one of the better offensive tackles in the league. Joey's just had his way with him. And I'm looking at it right now, and I heard Josh McDaniels say it. They're going to try Alex Leatherwood at right tackle again. And I believe it was Joey who ended that career at right tackle last year in their first meeting. And the very next week, Leatherwood was kicked inside the guard. So either Joey or Khalil are going to have a pretty good run on that deal there. And it's going to be awfully fun to get things started that way.
Yeah, and listen, you said it. Things have already started. The Raiders are in training camp because they had that Hall of Fame game.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr said, this is from The Athletic, it's going to be fun. No one thinks anything of us. And I think that's what makes it fun is you always have to put the ball down and play the football game. So Derek's taking the underdog approach very early, day one into camp.
Yeah, last time I checked, I thought that was Devontae Adams who was getting the Madden 99 rating trophy delivered by Jerry Rice. I think like their skill positions are up in the top 5 with Waller and Devontae and Hunter Renfrow, and just what a nightmare cover that is. It look, and not to mention they bring in Chandler Jones. You talked about it last week. In the top 10 they got Chandler Jones and Max Crosby in the top 10 edge rushers. Seems like people are all right with the Raiders team. Now just got to go out and execute. So to me, that's on you, Derek. It has nothing to do. People are giving you the respect, the team, the respect that you may be looking for. They're just looking for you to go out there and do it and do it in this division. It's funny for someone who routinely says that, with that weird accent that he has, I don't pay much attention to all that stuff out there. He seems to pay attention to a lot of it. For someone that tells us routinely that he does not pay attention to it. So, hey, family, trust, respect. There we go.
It's what's great about this upcoming season, Money. It's like we don't have the Browns or the Jaguars up for. It's Raiders week 1. It's Chiefs week 2. I mean, like this thing is coming at you like that. So all these fun little clippings that are going to come out throughout the course of training camp, preseason. That's all going to be the lead up to that game that really kind of picks up what happened in week 18 last year, but in Los Angeles. So,
yeah, I don't know if it's ideal or not. I don't know if you ask players, off
it may not be ideal for players.
That's what I mean. Like,
for fans, it's like, let's go.
Great. But we all know it takes like, look, I think I can talk about this, but like you always hear, the guys in Vegas that have to set the lines. They always say the first 3 weeks, there's your opportunity because it's so hard to know. So we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants when we're setting these lines. And that's typically when you hear fans get the better of the book because they're trying to figure it out. And so when you've got Raiders Chiefs week 1 and 2, and you've got teams that are trying to figure it out, and you've completely remade your defensive line, and you've got so many new players on the defensive side of the ball, that's going to take a second. I mean, there's a ton of talent out there, but it is going to take a second. I'll be interested to see how Coach Staley approaches preseason. If he feels like, and it's probably great that the Chargers have 2 joint practices this year, to get those reps and try to get these guys comfortable with one another, because we know that went a long way. We would always hear, how much Coach Lynn and Coach Staley loved those joint practices and how much they get out of it. So I think to be able to get 2 teams in there, both the Cowboys and the Rams, and get some of those reps with all these new players, that's going to go a long way for that first week on September 11th.
Yeah, those are the new preseason games. Like that's right, where the veterans are getting the most work. So like if you're a season seed holder, those 2 Cowboy joint practices, those are going to be a lot of fun. You got Zeke and Joey and Dak and Justin but just to go back to your point, like I remember Kevin Harlan saying, we had him on a couple of years ago, and he said, you know what, I don't pay much attention to who's good until like mid-October because penalties and sloppy football, you kind of get your footing in mid-October. So I almost feel like it's almost like whoever's more talented early in the year, like maybe talent plays out more than execution and penalties and things like that. So you're right. I don't know, as a coach, if I feel great about having my AFC West slate right at the off the rip, or like kind of going to that point. Like I remember I think it was like the Commanders had like 5 NFC East games like in like December, like something ridiculous. Like they had all of their division games at the end of the year. So like I always feel like the league they need to do something about that. Like it's very uneven because
it's hard, it's
hard.
really hard. It's, there's a reason why Peter King does that special every year on how they build the schedule with what's his name? Howard. Oh shoot. I should remember his name. I know his first name's Howard. Can't remember his last name though, who puts the whole thing together.
Is it Mike North, Howard Katz?
Howard Katz.
Yep.
I believe I think that's who puts it all together. But so I know it's impossible. And they always talk about, every single team is going to have an issue at some point with the way the schedule lays out. It's either a back-to-back road trip, or why is this team on a 10-day, rest and we're on a 6-day, and, all that sort of stuff. The one thing I'll say about the Raiders, and I don't know how interesting this is, not to belabor the point, but look, new head coach, new coordinators, new systems. So that's to me, that's benefit Chargers. I think personnel is easier to settle in than new coaches, new systems, perhaps new terminology. Like they've got McDaniels and Mick Lombardi and Patrick Graham. So you've got all new coaches and new systems that they're trying to settle into. To me, that's a bigger hurdle to clear the first 4 games than a couple new players.
I always go back and forth with that, Money, because I think there's a lot of validity to that. But at the same time, I remember Josh McDaniels started 4-0 or 5-0 with the Denver Broncos, and nobody really knew that system. Jim Zorn, I remember that same year, was like 6-2 with the Redskins, and it turned into
the Jim Zorn era. I forgot about that. Era.
But like I think that there's that, but there's also like the element of surprise and catching you off guard with some stuff. Yep. And I think I remember for that Washington example, once they were able to scheme what Zorn was doing, he didn't make any adjustments, and then there you have it, back half of the year. But McDaniels is a good coach. I mean,
he's a heck of a coach. Yeah, a heck of a coordinator. We'll see if he can be a heck of a coach.
And the Patriots, what are they going to look like on offense this year? I think that's one of the big pieces to this 2022 season that could affect the Chargers, frankly, if we're talking a wild card. Are the Patriots going to be the same as last year, or are they going to take a step back because Josh McDaniels isn't calling the plays there?
If I had to go one way or the other, I ain't going that way. I'll tell you that. They always figure it out. They did it last year with a rookie quarterback. They're right there in the playoffs. I mean, Bill Belichick is just so damn good. I don't think there's any two ways about it. So I'm just tired of doubting him. It is interesting. They even said, is it Matt Patricia that's going to call up? I don't know. They've got a couple guys in the mix there, Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, I think. And I don't think they've mentioned, look, it might just end up being
surprise
Bill Belichick that calls the plays.
Mac Jones calling the plays.
Yeah. Look, I am done. I'm seeing if they have anyone listed as an OC here. No, they don't. Vacant is what it's listed as right now.
Hey, guys, listen to our podcast first, but I Am Athlete had Asante Samuel Sr. on, and it was electric.
Yeah.
It was electric.
He does not struggle to speak. He has got some opinions, man.
And a lot of Belichick Brady stuff in there.
Yeah.
To hear from his perspective, I thought was pretty interesting.
That's great. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, because they went into the whole is it Belichick, is it Brady? And Asante Sr. had a lot to say about his thoughts on the matter.
I mean, look, you can't argue. To me, it's inarguable. The guy won 11 games with Matt Castle for an entire season. The guy had a rookie quarterback last year and won 10 games and made the playoffs, or 11 games, whatever it was that it just doesn't matter. It's crazy. I mean, the only thing you can ding him for is just drafting poorly, especially at the wide receiver position. There's a lot of draft picks that have not gone well for him. But outside of that, I can freaking coach.
Yeah. Any of the players specifically going into Wednesday, Thursday that you're excited to see? The full pads, they're not going to ramp up for 3 days, I think. But is there any other players? And I think maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked about some of the guys that we thought were popping a little bit in mini camp, but guys that you kind of want to see right off the top that could make a pretty big impact on this season.
Well, I think obviously it's Isaiah Spiller. To me, that's just all 3 running backs. Josh and Larry and Isaiah. I think it's going to be interesting to just see how they look standing next to each other. Because we've talked about running backs are different. They're just built different. They run different. They do different things well. So I'm anxious to see those 3. I'm anxious to see Trey. How does he look after this offseason of trying something different and working out with a different group? How fluid does he look when he's just, even without the pads on, when he's going through his sets. I'm looking forward to that. And I think just all the new players, it's going to be fun to see, guys that are starters that are going to be out there. That's the entire three-fourths of the defensive line, 3/5 of the defensive line. Corner, healthy Derwin James is always fun to watch. How's he moving around now that we kind of know there was a procedure in there in the off season? So yeah, I think there's a lot that I'm looking forward to.
We get into training camp and like the nicks and the bruises and like the fluidity of training camp, it starts to get underway where, we're talking about everything on paper right now. Once we get into camp, there will be, an injury. There will be a guy sitting out for a couple of weeks. And then that's where somebody who maybe we don't talk about as much here during the summer may show up. That's why I think these preseason games, some people just poo-poo them and say, hey, they really don't matter. And I guess for the starters, that's true. But the back end of the roster, the big theme this offseason from Telesco and Staley was a deep and complete team. We don't know how deep it is yet. And I think the training camp and especially some of those preseason games will get a better idea of some of these guys who I think are question marks at this point. Can they contribute in a game in December of 2022 when this team is fighting for the division or fighting for a playoff spot? They didn't necessarily have some of those guys last year, and that's kind of how they faltered down the stretch. This is where those guys are made and where you get a really good idea of who you can trust on your roster as we get to September.
I think just kind of I'm looking through the roster now, just going way deep, on our lads here. And yeah, you know what? Here's another name, JT Woods, because speed shows without pads. We know how fast their third round pick out of Baylor is. This is a sub 4.4 guy. So when you can see him out there running around and maybe tracking down some routes, as he's trying to, kind of catch up maybe with a deep ball or something as hard and far as Herbert can throw it, that'll be fun to watch. Tito, Abonia, who in street clothes looks big. I'm anxious to see him when he puts pads on, how big, because there is something to that. Like I think it's one of the benefits that we have of being able to be on the field. There are certain players that when you see them in pads, like the best parallel I can make is I remember covering the Kings, the LA Kings hockey. And I remember seeing Zdeno Chara for the first time on skates. And it's just, you can't describe it unless you're standing ice level with that guy. Like this is different. And I think that's how Joey is. When you see Joey in pads, when you see Derwin in pads, it's a safety that moves the way he moves. There's certain guys that really just jump out at you. So I'm anxious to see Zion, who's a big guy in street clothes, and Tito, and and the new guys, obviously Austin Johnson and Seabass, and Joseph Day and those guys. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
The ability of having hindsight now and seeing Rashawn Slater go one-on-one against Joey Bosa and hold his own early in the year. We didn't know that he was going to be a first team All-Pro. Like knowing what we know now, I mean, that's what's fun is you put yourself in that position in 2022, seeing Zion doing these one-on-ones. And
was he doing it against Nick Bosa too in those joint practices? So, I feel like Nick he sat out, right?
Still out. Yeah, he was. Yeah. Nick was there, but I don't think he participated.
I feel like we got some of that.
We'll get Micah Parsons later.
Right.
And those guys were 12 and 13. Exactly. Were all drafted, and we saw a little bit of that in week 2. I don't remember how that shook out.
Maybe we'll get a little Zion Johnson, Aaron Donald. It's not going to be fun for Zion, but hey, it's possible we'll get a little bit of that. That might be kind of fun.
Dude, those guys, you remember the 2017 joints with the Rams?
It got hot.
It got real hot.
Yeah, it got hot out there.
Phillip was involved too.
Yes, that was pre-Ramsey. Who was it that Keenan got into it with? Was it a safety?
That's what I was trying to figure that out. It wasn't Talib, right?
Oh yeah, it was.
It was Talib?
I think it was. Yes. it was exactly right, which is obvious. I should have thought of that. Yes, it was he and Aqib Talib. The whole practice. And then it finally just culminated where they went at it. and they had to break it up, get everything calmed down. Yeah, that's exactly who it was.
It's the best.
Yep.
Yeah. This year we'll have Keenan and Ramsey and Donald.
Oh, yeah.
Donald and Zion, dude. That's the matchup.
Yeah, exactly. Again, completely unfair because it's unfair to everybody. It's unfair to Zach Martin. It's unfair to Quentin Nelson. You name the guard, and I can tell you right now, there's an advantage, and it's on the defensive side of the ball. It's arguably the best defensive player in the history of the league. That's how good Aaron Donald is. So it'll be fun to see how Zion, comports himself in the face of the greatest adversity in all the NFL.
Yeah, he'll get you ready for September. Then you got to run it back when it's real on New Year's Day against them, and that could mean something.
Exactly.
Last thing, Kyle,
I think it was who was it last year that we had? Austin. Was it Fred Warner that Austin stood up in pass pro? I think that's what it was. I think it was Fred Warner and Austin, and there was a nice little set there to look. This is super inside. I can imagine this is, I don't know if it would qualify as minutia for the people listening right now.
No, people love it. Listen, if you're listening to this in mid-July.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, we're selling it a little hard. Like, hey, it's really exciting. Get out to Jack Hammett and watch these practices. But there are those moments. Like I remember walking down, I can replay it through my mind's eye here. I remember walking down to that side of the field because the way the practices are set up, it's like, oh, here's, this group versus that group. And then if you go over here, it's Niners offense versus Chargers defensive backs. And here is, it's running backs versus linebackers in pass pro. And I remember just walking that way and I see Austin and I see Fred Warner and I stopped and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. And freaking Austin stood him up. And I was like, dude, you see Fred, again, going back to the prior conversation, you see Fred Warner in pads, that is a thick dude. That is a strong dude. So to see Austin, who's, we always say pound for pound, strongest Chargers, see him hold his own. It was pretty fun, especially considering, his stature versus Fred's. It was a lot of fun.
The memory that stands out to me last year in training camp was Kittle, Derwin in the 11-on-11s. You remember this.
At touchdown and then the interception. Yeah.
But it was just to see Kittle run his route and the physicality in which he ran his route with, and Derwin matching it, and Derwin getting the pick off of Jimmy and taking it the other way. That was like, okay, man, those are two of the best in the world at what they do, going head to head right now. And that's where we talk about these joint practices, is how for the ones it's invaluable, because like these are the reps that are going to get you ready for September.
And I think what you see in a series like that, and I think Kittle got a touchdown on him, right? I want to say he got a touchdown on him like the series prior.
Got it back. Yeah.
And then Derwin got the pick. Like what you see in those moments are how much it matters. Like, they're having some fun and it's practice. And then all of a sudden it gets real. And when it gets real, it's a lot of fun because you can see Derwin digging in and Kittle digging in and they're fighting and they're hand fighting. And when he had that pick and the entire team freaks out and runs the other way with him, it's like, oh yeah, this does matter.
There's probably so many people watching this that say, I'm a competitive person. Yeah, I'm a pretty competitive person. Oh man.
Yeah.
There's levels to this.
See, and if I may pass along some advice, it's why I'm one of the least competitive people on earth, because when you realize I will never achieve that level. So why am I even going to bother? I might as well just go 180 degrees the opposite direction and just cruise and be totally content with anything that comes my way. Exactly.
Enjoy
your
life.
I don't need to compete. It's rarely going to benefit me or come out in my favor. So I might as well just kind of say, I'm good. Just keep cruising. Have a good time.
Final thing.
You
touched on it earlier, Kyler Murray's extension. This is like breaking as we talk, and I think it's relevant for a couple of reasons. Number one is the Chargers play the Cardinals week 12, so not that we thought Kyler was going anywhere, but he's locked in, and the Chargers have the NFC West this year, so you have those Niners that we just talked about. You have the Rams January 1st. You got the Cardinals, and then you got the Seahawks with Chenna coming back to SoFi, I think like week 7. So that's important. And Kyler's another young quarterback. And I think it makes you like, I think Kyler is exceptional, but Chargers fans should be happy they got number 10.
Look, I'm a huge fan. I'm a big Kyler fan. And I knew they'd get the deal done because there's no alternative. It's like, of course they're going to get a deal done. They're going to trade that guy. You can't find another franchise quarterback, and he's a franchise quarterback. I'm looking at the numbers now, 230 over 5, 160 guaranteed, averages 46. So like to me, the most important thing in terms of this podcast is, okay, unless unless Joe Burrow, does a deal before Justin and knowing the Bengals, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that one's probably going to get strung out. I think, they're having issues with Jesse Bates, who was a super important piece to their defense, last year, and they let that drag out, and he's going to play on the franchise tag this year and go into free agency next year. So to me, this is much more representative, I think, of what Tom and Ed and everybody are thinking about in the Chargers front office than what Deshaun Watson got. Like that's just the dumbest freaking deal I've ever seen.
That's just going to be the outlier. And I think the entire league's going to agree that that was a ridiculous outlier.
Which I think you just saw Kyler's agent essentially do. It's like, that's not going to happen. That will not be the norm. It's a team that basically promised the guy everything so he would agree to be traded there instead of Atlanta or New Orleans. That was the way they got him. So this is, that's what Justin's going to cost and a little bit more, his deal will be bigger than that, I'm sure. And, it's a pretty good framework though. And I would assume that it'll be very similar looking to that. And it's probably going to be the last quarterback deal we're going to see, prior to next offseason when it's time for Tua. And unless Tua has a monster year, and it would have to be an MVP level year for him to be in that conversation. But it's the next one up now is going to be Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert.
There you go. Money, are you going to be at practice the first day, second day?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go out as much as I can. Okay. They're early enough where I can squeeze some stuff in. It's all got to figure out when the old NFL Network wants to get the power rankings fired up again. And
let's go.
Because that's a Tuesday. So depending on when that gets going, but yeah, I'll be out there. I know my first official for the network is the 30th. That Saturday is that. So I've got some days next week before that. Because Tuesday, right, is our first open?
Wednesday's the first open.
Wednesday. So there you go.
Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe we can do the pod live in the morning.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. Camp. Yeah, that works.
If you guys are there, come kick it with us, and
absolutely
we'll get a time down. So
absolutely.
All right, brother. Camp next week.
Next week going to be a lot more fun than this. That's for sure.
Yep. No more lists. I didn't, I purposely didn't go through the Madden rankings. We don't need to go through the Madden rankings. People are going to be upset about those. Austin was in the top 10. That's fine. Keenan's in the top 10.
Bunch of weirdos in Playa del Rey. Making those rankings. Whatever.
Name names, buddy.
My boy Matt. I think my guy Matt's still over there. Franciscovich.
The franchise?
I think he's still at EA, isn't he? I know he left NFL Network for EA, but I'm pretty sure he's still there. I think my guy Black Tie is gone. I don't think so.
Franchise, Justin Herbert.
Right. Exactly.
You
Take care of it.
You don't want the Chargers social media coming after you, bro.
See, now I got to make sure that he's EA Sports. There we go. Still there.
All right. Well, shout out to the franchise.
Right.
All right, guys. That'll do it. We'll see you next week live at Jack Hammett Sports Complex. For Money, I'm Chris.